Natasha, thank you very much for joining us today at Coffee and Natter. Thank you for being a speaker. We've had a fantastic event. Over 50 people attended. I was there in the room. Fantastic response. So congratulations on that, and welcome welcome today. Just to start off with, let's talk to us, the audience, in terms of the conversation you've had with the audience today. What was the talk about? Just share that with us today as a starting point.
Yeah, well, the talk today was about confidence, there are many things that I speak about and share, and I thought, how can I best serve people today, right now, in the room, which was amazing, but also in the wider audience. And I think confidence is one of those things that people say, oh, well, I'll feel confident when I've got the degree, or when I've got married, or when I've bought this house, or when I've had my children, or when I've made my first million, and yet that's not where confidence comes from. And so it was really amazing to be able to share that and see people's response and get their feedback as well, and watch the pennies drop for them.
The light bulb moment sort of thing.
Yes.
I mean, how did you find today in terms of our format, a Coffee and Natter format, first time for yourself, and being a networker as well? I know you do the ladies event, Damsels in Success in Bromsgrove. So you're a networker yourself as well, and obviously you're a published author, you're a speaker. From your perspective, a little bit about Coffee and Natter, the Pathway2Grow format, if you can just share that with us.
Yes, thank you, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. It's been my privilege, and it's been really enjoyable, and you have a great team here. I have to say, they've really looked after me so well. The format is excellent, and what I love about it is the fact that the speakers can be approached by people as they come in. I mean, I positioned myself at the door because I wanted to say hello to people as they came through the door.
Meet them individually, have a conversation with them.
Absolutely. And so it's very informal and very natural. So it wasn't forced. And a lot of networking events, and I don't do many, I tend to be invited to speak, and then I speak, which is lovely. And then you get to meet people, sometimes, and they get to meet you sometimes. But more often than not, because it's more formal, they don't necessarily approach you. But today, and how certainly
very
you laid it out, totally open, which I love, very informal, very relaxed, and it's much more natural. And so therefore the conversations you're having are much more real conversations. It's not a case of here's my card. It's a case of thank you very much for your time, or thank you very much for your talk, or I really enjoyed this, or this is what I want to do, or can you help me with that, or would you like to speak at this? And I love that, because I think that's networking at its absolute best in a really relaxing way. So you have that opportunity at the beginning, then people hear the speaker speak, which again is lovely when it's two-way, I love that kind of collaboration. And then afterwards there's another opportunity to connect. So for those people who don't particularly know the speaker, haven't met them before, or maybe just seen them on Facebook or a YouTube video or something like that, have the opportunity to hear them and then connect with them again. So it's much more meaningful connection. So there's much less time wasted for everybody included.
Right. Okay.
So I love the format. Really good. Definitely.
Okay. I mean, I mentioned the fact that you're a published author. Your book is called Get Blissed.
Get Blissed.
I've got to be careful with how I pronounce
oh yes, Saf, it's with a B. Get Blissed.
Get Blissed. Tell us a little bit about that book and the journey that's led for you to write that book. And again, what is it about? Get Blissed.
Well, it's really the process through which I went. And actually, when I went through the process, it was kind of common sense. So I talk about things like love, acceptance, forgiveness, and nourishing your mind and being mindful of your thoughts. A lot of mindfulness tools and techniques that I share. So it's not like an autobiography, it's just the process. And it's a process of personal development, self-mastery, if you like, to get you from where you want to be to from where you are, where you want to be, in terms of approaching life in a wholesome way, in a way that includes everybody, in a way that's fair to everybody, and actually completely changed my life.
Yeah. Talking about that, I mean, obviously, when I was looking to do some research on yourself, I mean, I came across that you were a professional. You were an optician. You had your own business and so forth. What led you to just share that journey with us, if that's okay?
Yes. So, wow, I don't know where to start. It depends on how long we've got, really.
Yeah.
So I started my working life in restaurants. I was a restaurant manager for 8.5 years when I was young, a teenager, which was amazing, very empowering, hard work, lots of training courses, very, very interesting, and developing people. Then I moved into advertising for a short while, and then I became a dispensing optician and set up my company, Accessorize. That's it. Yeah. And so we still operate.
Is that
yes,
running?
Yes. We sell optical accessories to the optical industry, so it's B2B. So wholesalers. So part and parcel of that journey for me was that I had come out of the limelight as such with the restaurant industry, and I'd gone behind the scenes. Yeah. Now, it was the right thing for me to do at the time. But what I hadn't bargained on was that was also had an impact on me as a human being, and it was almost like I wasn't able to be my full self. Yeah. And about 11 years ago, I hit a wall. I wasn't well, I was stressed, I was worried about everything, because that was my nature. Yeah. I was quite maybe unhappy, maybe a bit negative, that sort of thing. Yeah. And there were lots of things that weren't going my way, and I was physically ill. So I started having to take on board, what do I do about this? And I went to see a doctor, and they took my bloods, and they said arthritis. I'm like, no way, it's not happening. So I looked at other ways. Yeah. And so I didn't want to go down a pharmaceutical route. Doctors are amazing and the hospitals are amazing, but that wasn't the journey I wanted to take.
You thought the answer was more natural and inside yourself.
Yeah, and I had no idea about this world of personal development at all. Yeah. So, over the last 11 years, I've read everything I can get my hands on. I've listened, I plug in at night, listening to meditation and mindfulness things and educational
complete
things.
Sort of transformational, complete change to something.
Total change, and really looking inside and questioning and challenging and changing everything. So that was the start of my journey. And I cured myself. I no longer have, the signs of arthritis, which is amazing. And I'm really blessed to have, been on that journey. And I've learned how powerful your mind is and how important it is to nourish your mind as well as taking care of your body. Yeah. So I stopped watching the news about 12 years ago and stopped reading newspapers 12 years ago. Yeah. Because everything you think, because everything you think, the words that you use, everything you eat and drink, the rest, the exercise, everything you're watching and reading, it all goes in. So because I'm an empathic person, I was absorbing a lot of this negativity, and it was really affecting me on quite a deep level. And I was getting so upset and sad. When you hear about orphanages or schools or workplaces, having earthquakes or tsunamis or in war-ravaged areas, it would hurt me so deeply. And yet I was feeling helpless because I couldn't do anything to change it. And so I decided not to avoid it, not to be an ostrich, but to not allow my energy to be zapped by these things, but to put that effort into helping other people. Initially dealing with the things that I had to deal with from an internal point of view, and then to be able to share them, hence my book, Get Blissed. I do mentoring for 2 charities, which is amazing. I get the opportunity to work with children and really inspire them, and children are amazing. I run workshops for obviously grown-ups where I help people overcome their limiting beliefs, the things that hold you back. If fear wasn't in your way and if money was no object, what would your life look like? What is your perfect life? Where would you live? What would you do? Who would you speak to? Who would you spend your time with? And these are all things that are possible, because everything is ultimately possible. And it's only when you start to put aside the belief system that maybe holds you back, the environment that sucks you into the sea of sameness, and the conditioning, on reading the newspapers, watching these violent movies, watching the news. You know, we're all conditioned.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that took me back when I was looking at your profile is that there was a reference to free thinker. The fact that you're a free thinker, and just tell us that sort of. I wasn't sure what that meant. So just share that with me, and I've done some research since then. But share that with myself and also with the audiences in terms of that free thinking process. What does that mean? Is that exactly, as you said, no holds barred, thinking out loud, or just
Totally thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And I think I have been blessed to have my own company for 17 years now.
Yeah.
And so not having a boss as such, well, the hardest boss in the world myself, right? But not having a boss opened my eyes to other possibilities, and then being involved in the world of personal development and self-mastery, looking at different perspectives, travelling the world, speaking to different people, looking at different cultures, different religions, different ways of thinking, different approaches, talking to people on all levels, speaking to people in all different professions. It gives you a different perspective on life, and you think, wow, you might have a set way of thinking, but what makes it that you're right? Why not this perspective? Why not that perspective? So having debates and discussions with people, and literally, and philosophy. I'm very interested in philosophy. I've studied psychology. I've studied philosophy. I've studied CBT, NLP, EFT, EAM. All of the letters. And what comes up is just different perspectives along the same things, and it really broadens your horizon. So instead of having your blinkers on like this, you're opening them up. And it's accepting other people's points of view. It's being respectful to how other parts of the world. In this country, we can't afford to be arrogant and say, well, we're the British, Great Britain and all that. Yeah, of course, there are amazing, beautiful things about this country. But you look abroad, you look at places like, for engineering, you look at Germany, you look at Japan. They're fantastic engineering. You look at mindfulness, you look at India and Asia, these places where, they're meditating, and the Buddhist culture and all of, the way that they are nurturing their minds and they're flexing their mental muscles, and the inner peace that gives them. There's so much that we can learn by looking outside of ourselves, not just here, but also looking outside of ourselves in terms of where we live and our culture and our society and in history.
Wow. The other thing, obviously, I'm just trying to touch on some of the points you've mentioned, being empathic. What's I can't pronounce the word that you mentioned, but
an empath.
Sort of heart-centered individual, absorbing what's around you. Obviously, one of the things that we all sort of learn when you're going down the path of self-development is the fact that we're very influenced by the people that we surround ourselves with, and sometimes they're negative thoughts, negative people. And if somebody's in that sort of in that space at this moment in time, what sort of advice would you give them in terms of stepping stones to sort of change their life? What's the first thing that they should be doing in terms of if somebody's feeling that they're in a sort of not a good position at this moment in time? Any thoughts?
Well, I think the first thing to remember is you need to listen to yourself. And, we all say things that our parents say, and we catch ourselves saying it, right? Oh my gosh, my mother would have said that, or my grandmother would have said that, or my father would have said that. And when you have those moments, you need to ask yourself the question, is this true for me? Because if it isn't true for you, you need to let it go. And no matter what anybody says to you, they could be a teacher, they could be a professional, they could be, somebody in government, they could be a speaker, they could be your idol. No matter what anybody ever says to you, including what I say, if that's not true for you, you can disregard it. And be independent of the good opinions of other people. Because actually they love to give their opinions, and it's kind of judgment in a way, or criticism in a way, and a lot of it is meant well. Our parents give us advice because they mean well. However, what they're doing is they're judging. They don't mean to judge, but that's a judgment. And if you take that away and say, really, has anybody got the right to judge another human being? And if you stand strong and really know who you are. So I talk about, who are you? Why are you here? What are your gifts? We're all here on this earth equal in terms of the things that we're here to bring. You know, somebody who, my gifts aren't to be a brain surgeon, so there's no point me even going there. Not to write code, because that's not my gifts either. Not to be a tennis player, because that's not my gifts either.
So you've got to know yourself.
You have to. You absolutely have to. And, you know, people get stuck when they become an adult, because babies have no problems knowing who they are and what they want. And yet, between, you know, the time that you're a baby to the time you become an adult, so much... If you're born a pure, beautiful, sparkling, clear diamond, so much mud is thrown at you along the way, and it sticks. It's non-intentional most of the time. It's environment, it's belief systems, it's family values, it's culture, it's whatever, society, anything and everything. And so once we become an adult, we've lost who we really are. And we've moulded ourselves into what we think society expects of us, what our families expect of us. And our families mean well. And that's not necessarily the right thing for us and the right path for us. So definitely find out what it is that you are amazing at, that you love doing. What would you do for nothing? If you could do something, if you didn't need to earn a living, what would you do? Because that will start to give you clues as to what you need to be doing. There's no point. How painful is it to try and force a square peg into a round hole? When a square peg into a square hole, like kids do when they're babies. You know those plastic things that they do, and they get it right, and the parents go, yeah, you got it right, well done. It slots in easily.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, obviously the format for today in terms of Pathway2Grow Coffee and Natter, we have obviously yourself, you were the sort of keynote speaker, guest speaker, but we have another section which is the book review, and we had obviously a book review that was done. You've spoken the fact that, you know, books and the reading and the research that you're doing is a big part of your journey. You've written a book yourself. Any sort of books that you would recommend to anybody in terms of maybe going that sort of transformational job, wanting to sort of making any change in terms of their life? Any sort of books that you can recommend offhand?
Wow, so many. So many books.
Or videos, or any authors, any sort of nuggets there that you want to share with us in terms of research and books.
I have read so many books, and so many people have influenced me in different ways. And so I don't just follow one person or read just one book or one author, because so many people have amazing things to share. Of course. One of the most amazing, I suppose, Success Principles by Jack Canfield. I read that about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was totally wowed by that. He also wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, and I was so blown away by his book, and I made notes and folded the pages and highlighted the words and everything else, and went back on it over and over again. I'm like, wow, because it really helped me find out what my purpose was. It was incredible. I did loads of personality tests. I read loads of books. I listened to loads of different people. So it was a combination of all of those things. So whatever it is for you, and everything's on the internet. You can go onto YouTube, and it's easily accessible. So be curious. Be inquisitive. And educate yourself, of course. And I really was so moved by this book, and the reason I've picked that one just now, you have put me on the spot. You realise that. Is that when I got to write my book and I launched my book in Toronto, I didn't know this, but one of the guest speakers was Jack Canfield. So I actually got to meet him in person and stand on the stage with him, and then to speak with him afterwards, and we had dinner in the evening with him, which was so incredible, because for the longest time I had admired this man and got to meet him, and I got to meet him because Raymond Aaron, who wrote the foreword in my book for me, is one of his best friends. So he had invited him as a bonus to all of his audience for the event. So that's one of very, very many. It was an amazing experience. It really was.
Okay. In terms of talking about experiences, today has been fantastic. Really appreciate your time and effort. Again, obviously, if somebody wanted to sort of look you up, follow you in terms of some of the work that you're doing, what's the best way in terms of social media? If you want to just share maybe what's the best way to connect with you?
Thank you. Yes, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and inviting me to speak. It was really good fun.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
So for anybody who wants to connect with me, I'm on Facebook, Natasha Aylott, or Get Blissed, both. I'm also on LinkedIn.
Yeah, fantastic.
And,
just search for you there. And
connect with me. Send me a private message. I'm usually quite good at replying.
Okay, fantastic.
And also have a YouTube channel, Natasha Aylott. So I post little videos. People who come up to me and say, how do I handle this? How do I handle that? Well, I make videos on them. So it's the easiest way. And they can watch them over and over.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's lovely to meet you again. Thank you.